What's up, y'all? In this video, we are going to show you how we took this closed off space, blew it out, and seamlessly connected the kitchen and the living room. I'll be taking you from start to finish with knocking down load-bearing walls, structural steel I-beam installation, all new windows and accordion doors, all new flooring, custom cabinetry, and a brand new waterfall kitchen island. Let's get into the video. All right, let's just talk project scope so you guys know what's going on. We were contracted to take out 2 load-bearing walls that were dividing the kitchen from the dining and the living space. We have some wood flooring all in the living room that continues into the rest of the house that we are largely keeping, so we need to protect the hell out of all of that. There is a beautiful view at the back of this property, so our client wants to do all new windows and have a big accordion door that will open up all the way, which is gonna be awesome. Another thing that we're doing is we're gonna enlarge the kitchen island. So the original island is going to come out, we're gonna put a new one in. So the first thing we wanna do, get up all of our plastic. We're keeping a lot of the perimeter cabinetry. We're trying to contain dust as best as we can. Before we take out these load-bearing walls, we need to put up temporary support walls. So it's working as dust containment and a temporary support wall. Okay, so next thing that we always want to do is start opening up the ceiling. We want to confirm that any assumptions that were made by us and or the structural engineer, we want to see if the joists are running in that particular direction, what their sizings are. Next up, we're just gonna tear into this baby, get all that drywall ripped away. We are tearing into the wall that is between the kitchen and the dining right now. This is one of the main walls that completely separates the space. Now that a lot of the demo's gone down, we have to actually bring in the steel beam. So we're gonna take off some of that OSB. We're gonna wheel that beam in on dollies. And remember, we have to protect the existing wood floor the whole time. So we actually put plywood down on top of the wood floor, which actually has a layer of cardboard underneath it just to make sure that we're double protected. And like I said, these beams are huge, they're heavy. We have existing walls, we have glass, we have windows that we do not want to damage. So this is much more precarious, and we have to be a lot more careful on how we bring these beams in to an already finished home. And what you see them doing here is they're welding certain tabs onto these beams. And if you look, they're perforated with screw holes so that you can actually bolt through the steel into wood or bolt it to another steel beam. They're also welding on what's called saddles. All a saddle is just like a cradle. It's like a U shape, and that is going to be welded onto a steel beam to then either hold another steel beam or hold a wood beam as well. So there's all these different connection details in our structural engineering set, and we want to make sure that we are nailing those 100% because all of that has to get inspected. If this was like a new build, we could just crane in the steel beams from the top, but in a renovation, we're using these material lifts. These material lifts, they're all mechanical. You're just cranking it by hand. It has a cable, and there's a guy on each lift on either side of the beam, and they're each cranking. And you know, they'll move it up a certain degree. They have to talk to each other because you don't want this imbalanced. When we actually went to look at where the post is going to attach to the steel beam, there was a gap. And this steel beam can't just move over, right? It's in a fixed place. It has to carry a defined load above it. Also, the post that is there, it is in the existing floor. We can't just move this post over because of all the floor around it. We are not replacing that floor. We got with the structural engineer. His recommendation was to pack out the steel I-beam with 2x12s. But this is a wood to steel connection. This is no easy feat. You'll see the fabricators here. They're using these huge drills, and they have to drill all the way through that steel I-beam. And they have to do it top and bottom in a designated space that the structural engineer lays out for us. That's called the bolt pattern. They do it in that bolt pattern all the way down this steel beam. So that is just taking tons of time in itself. Looking down the path of our next steel beam, there's a big header in our way. So that obviously needs to come out. What we need to do is get some more support walls in there. Better safe than sorry. We're kind of taking that out in pieces because it's just a big beam and it's hard to take out in one piece. So what we did is we're cutting a channel into that top flange of the steel I-beam. You can see the guys here using the torch. They're just cutting out a channel so that the tab that is on that post can actually just slide right into that channel. Here, we actually checked and we're perfectly on a grade beam, which is awesome. So what we need to put in is what's called a base plate. This is just a piece of steel that goes onto the ground that gets bolted into the concrete with epoxy to keep it in there nice and tight. And then we're gonna get that post in on top of the base plate. The tab slides right into the steel beam at the top, and then we weld it at the bottom and weld it at the top, and we're good to go. Cutting back those joists that are gonna hang on the steel beam is a delicate process. It can be a bit tedious, but remember, we do not wanna overcut them. You overcut them, they're not gonna hang on the beam, then you have to add a bunch more framing all the way back. It's a mess. So we check 3 times, we cut once. We go in, we precision cut all those joists. Now we can finally start hoisting up with those material lifts, getting our steel beams in place. First, we're gonna hoist them up. We're gonna bolt all those connections together. We're gonna level things. We're gonna tack weld. We're gonna check again and again until we make our final welds only after everything's perfect. So moving forward, it's kind of rinse and repeat. We have a few more posts to put in. That means we need to get those base plates in. We need to get the steel beams. Then we need to get the posts and the base plates, connect them all together. We had some trouble with the one at the garage because there's an existing header that we're not removing. So we had to get that beam up over the header and then slide it back and forth to get it right into place. There's also some really cool connection details over by the steel doors where we have another set of big beams, and then we have another angled beam going off of the main one over, landing above the door. So we had some wood framing to put in over those doors. We had to get all those things in conjunction, no small feat. Now, one of my favorite parts, when you can actually remove all the temporary support walls and you really see that drastic aha moment where you just pull them all down. It's like pulling a cloak away from a magic show and you're like, here it is. Such a drastic change. Obviously, all this work went into this moment and it's very glorious, and you get to kind of appreciate what you've done right there in that moment. We took out all of the existing tile in the kitchen for some new tile. When we did that, a lot of the thin set from the tile, it was pulling up the subfloor. The subfloor was old, it was thin, it was not in good shape. So we demoed all that out. We put in new subfloor, gives us a nice solid surface to lay our new tile on. Time to demo the windows. So earlier, when we put up those support walls and we plywooded them, another thing we did is we put a wall across this whole back window wall so that when we take out these windows, the whole home isn't gonna be fully open to the elements, like animals can't get in. So first off, you're gonna see that the guys are being very delicate. They're taking off the trim nicely. They're removing these windows as gently as they can. They're a lot more gentle than I am in demo, if you know what I mean. But this is because the exterior of the home is a stucco that we want to minimize damage to as best as we can. We need to repair all the stucco around the windows that are removed. Secondly, there are some automatic screens. We're actually keeping the same window opening sizes. We're just going with that giant accordion door that will open all the way. So we're carefully removing those window screens to reuse later. So basically, we're just prepping these window openings for the install, and then our installer is gonna come, waterproof everything, and then actually set those windows in place. Next up is Rodrigo, our exterior doors and windows maestro. This guy is going on nearly 2 decades of only installing windows and doors. He is absolutely fantastic. I've never had a leak using him because he is very, very thorough, and everything he's doing is for 100% waterproof installation. So first up, what you're seeing is the guys are gonna apply a primer down at the bottom of the sill. They're actually gonna do this around the side and top of the jamb of the window as well. This is gonna act like a glue, because then they're going to adhere what's called a polyguard. It's an aluminum tape that actually goes down around the jamb. So they're gonna put that down over the primer. They have squeegees to get all the air bubbles out, make sure it's nice and flat, and then they're gonna heat all that up so it's gonna fully activate it and dry it nice and tight. You don't just go ahead and install your doors or windows, especially with a floor to ceiling window or a door, because it's sitting right there on the ground. We do a custom aluminum Z-pan at the sill of every door and window when we can. We're also balancing a constant back and forth of getting in our waterproofing and checking fitment of the windows and doors. This is a very tight balance, right? Usually you're ordering windows that the actual window size is going to be a ½ inch less than the framed opening. And then you have window fins that are gonna actually go on the side. So the fin comes off the window, it goes flush to the wall, and then you can nail those fins all around the window or door frame. But you don't want it too tight, because then it's gonna be hard for the door to open or the window to open. You don't want it too loose, because the window is not secure. So this is a balancing act. You'll see a bunch of these blue little plastic pieces. These are shims. The guys are getting shims all around because your frame might be off on one side but on another. The other thing that's really tricky is when you have just like a sliding glass door unit, when it's just one movable panel and one fixed panel, you just kind of pop it in. When you have an accordion door system, it's 4 separate doors. They're all sliding on a track. They all have to pocket. Some of them, you know, they bend and accordion away. Other ones are bypassing. You need a person that's very familiar with the assembly of these products. These things are heavy, they're delicate, you cannot scratch them. The stakes are high, they're expensive, and then on top of that, they're one of the highest lead time items. So all of that just means a ton of pressure, and that's why you want the right guy in there to do the job. Now, we have Pedro. He's gonna install all of the tile flooring in the kitchen. He did an awesome job, and that makes room for our custom cabinetry. These cabinets were a little tricky because we had existing cabinets that we had to match. We had to match a similar species of oak, and then we took back some of the doors that we demoed out in that load-bearing wall. We let Sol take that, and they have a really awesome stain matching procedure. It matched nearly perfectly. I think it's pretty much identical. Came out awesome, but this is just a little bit more tricky than if we didn't have that to deal with and everything was new. As you can see, huge island in the middle of the kitchen. There's storage on both sides. This thing is awesome. Once that gets set, we're gonna be ready for countertops. And then since we demoed out that load-bearing wall, that's where all the old pantry used to be. So we needed a new pantry, and that's right next to the existing lower cabinets. I think it all came out fantastically. Now we bring in Duval and his team. He is our badass countertop fabricator. These are not light slabs. The island is so big, we have to do 2 separate pieces. You'll see them cart that in, bring one piece, put it on, cart the other one, get it on there. Then they're gonna use the seam joiner, and they're gonna squeeze those 2 pieces together with epoxy, and you want to color match that epoxy. This is literally like color matching a paint. It is a task for an artist, and Duval is a master at this epoxy. This island came out amazing. We also have a big waterfall on the back side, so we have that miter where we're cutting both of those corner pieces at a 45 degree, so they meet at that nice perfect corner. As always, Duval is in and out without a hitch. That guy is an A player, also someone that I will use to the day that I die. So what started off as a walled off, compartmentalized kitchen is now a beautiful open concept. Kitchen, dining, living. The space feels absolutely massive and grand. And honestly, when you walk through that front door, now you're unimpeded. That wall blocked your view. Now you're looking beyond into that beautiful view of the iconic Pennybacker Bridge. This view was driving a lot of what we did here in this project. Our client was awesome. He had a vision. We brought it to life. We executed on it. I'm so damn proud of our team. This, in comparison to some of the massive stuff we do, isn't a huge project, but as you can see, it was layered with tons of details. This project only takes about 3 or 4 months in comparison to a massive custom home that might take 18 to 24 months. So it greases our wheels, it keeps money coming in through the door, and it gets some awesome projects for our portfolio. I couldn't be happier. All right, y'all, as always, I appreciate you so much, and honestly, I'm just so humbled that you're interested in watching our stuff, so I appreciate you. Please shoot out those comments. I love responding when I have time, especially if you have actual questions about your project or installation methods or how to grow your company, anything like that. I love discussing that stuff. I will see y'all on the next one. Take it easy.